99.5 Global FM, your number one source for R&B in the Bahamas. Yeah. This is 99.5 Global FM, your number one source for R&B in the Bahamas.
Yeah. Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio station.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm, and as always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in and making GPS a part of your afternoon. It is much appreciated. So today is Monday, which means that we are continuing with our masterclass on the Constitution of the Bahamas, and my guest, Professor Sidney McArthur Walter Thompson, is back at the desk to help us break this down. Welcome back to GPS, Professor.
Well, thank you, Ms. Malcolm, and it's good to be here.
I see, boy, plenty of people won't know what's going on with the Constitution. I see what a time. I see you on this big-time event last night. I see, look at my professor.
They called me at short notice. And they say we're trying to get a hold of me, and I told them they want to get a hold of me. They could always call Global.
Okay.
But she did not know that. But I said, now that you have the number, I said, you make sure keep that number.
Well, y'all at a packed house last night.
It was a packed, overflowing house last night. Very interesting. They asked me to speak. It's amazing to see the dynamic interest of the Bahamian people. In this document, I've been waiting for more than 50 years for Bahamians to reach this level of interest.
Yeah.
This is extremely high. I am so encouraged. It is so good for democracy and the Commonwealth of Bahamas and Bahamians. Please keep it up. Don't let it die down, because I'm going to tell you right now, we got some serious work to do. We ain't even started the work yet. This is just the beginning of something bigger and better for the Bahamian people.
Nothing before it's time.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing before it's time. And definitely now is the time.
Now is the time. Yes, ma'am.
Because as you point out so well, each time you come on the show, that in many ways our Constitution is under threat.
Yes, it is.
And
very much so.
We have to understand first and foremost what is in the Constitution.
Yes.
So we should, as a collective, know what we're fighting for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very important that people understand the document. As I always say, in simple, plain language for the average person to understand. We need those persons out there to understand so they can act accordingly. They can know when an administration or government is acting in their best interest or not. Now, in the past, we didn't know. A lot of people didn't show any interest in it. They thought it was just a piece of paper. Like one gentleman told me, "Oh, Professor, that's only a piece of paper." I said, "You stay right there, but it's only a piece of paper." Now today, the tide has turned tremendously in favor of the Constitution, and I am so delighted to see the tremendous surge of interest by the Bahamian people in this most valuable, most precious document that we have in our country. It's top notch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So every Monday, until we get through it all, God spare life.
God spare life.
The professor is going to be joining us on GPS to provide a master class on the Constitution of the Bahamas. And this is his third week?
I think this may be the fourth.
Fourth week?
Yeah, I think
well, there was a break in between. I think we did one show, and then I think there was a break, and then we decided to continue on, I believe. I think it was a break because of a holiday or something like that.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
I think this is number 4.
Well, number 4, and we still in the preamble?
Still in the preamble, yes, ma'am.
Ain't that a step? That shows you how heavy this document is.
That's why I'm trying to get people to understand the seriousness of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very serious document. You can't play with it.
And it ain't just a piece of paper for whoever
it
that
is
was.
not a piece of paper
Because
see, it's your salvation document for your country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you elect people and they ignore that Constitution, it's to our detriment. But I'm delighted to see that the interest is surging among the Bahamian people, because I believe a number of factors might have caused it. The way how governance has been in this country, that's point number 1. External pressures outside our country, pressing us in, trying to get us to do this, that, and the next thing. And internal problems which have been mounting for the last 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So people are interested in finding out, is there something missing? Maybe there is something missing. Maybe there's something we had overlooked. Maybe there's something we don't understand. Yeah. Let's go and check it out.
Good stuff. Well, here's the thing. You could have the best Constitution in the world, but if you don't know what's in it,
amen,
and you allowing people to rule you who do know what's in it, but they know that you don't know what's in it.
Exactly.
Then, they could do whatever they want to do and figure you ain't gonna check because you ain't no better.
Exactly.
So this is why this is so encouraging. I would suspect that this is why this is so encouraging to you, because if the masses understand what is in this document, then they can demand more of those that we put in
power.
Yeah.
They certainly can. And that's why it's important that the masses, the average Bahamian in the large numbers, understand. And I promised them, and I told them in simple language, as far as I'm concerned, they're going to get it. Accurate and precise information. Of course, I said to them that do not get upset. And I told them this is a key point. Do not get upset with persons who may have contrary views to your view. Because I tell them I hear a lot of crap all the time.
Right.
But I just smile. Because, see, I simply say they don't know better. See, I know better, but they don't. Now, we've got to come out of not knowing. That's point number 1. And point number 2, we got to get to know better how our country ought to function, how our government ought to function, how about these international agreements the government has signed on behalf of the Bahamian people, whether they are in accordance with the Constitution or not. That's extremely valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Or are they acting contrary to the Constitution?
Okay. All right, so let's dive into it. Jason, I need you to go ahead and play that clip of the preamble of the Constitution, please.
The Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Preamble. Whereas 481 years ago, the rediscovery of this family of islands, rocks, and keys heralded the rebirth of the New World. And whereas the people of this family of islands, recognizing that the preservation of their freedom will be guaranteed by a national commitment to self-discipline, industry, loyalty, unity, and an abiding respect for Christian values and the rule of law. Now know ye, therefore, we, the inheritors of and successors to this family of islands, recognizing the supremacy of God and believing in the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, do hereby proclaim in solemn praise the establishment of a free and democratic sovereign nation founded on spiritual values, and in which no man, woman, or child shall ever be slave or bondsman to anyone, or their labor exploited, or their lives frustrated by deprivation. And do hereby provide by these articles for the indivisible unity and creation under God of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Which even after 4 weeks, we're still in it, still in the midst of it. And I believe in the last session, we got as far as breaking down the rule of law. And so in this session, Jason, I need you to adjust the camera again, please. In this session, we're going to start at the starting point of the supremacy of God that you would have heard in the preamble. So what is this supremacy of God?
That is an interesting question. See, the Bahamian people never wanted to build a nation without God. That is the God of the Holy Bible. Let's make that clear right off the top. Not any God. When you talk about the supremacy of God, the God of the Holy Bible. Remember in 1834 when we were freed as slaves?
Mm-hmm.
The Bahamian people didn't burn down the man's building, didn't rip up his farms, didn't rape the children or his wife or anything like that.
Right.
They went right into the little church and they thanked God for the shackles that were taken off them. They were now a free people because of Queen Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that there was always this respect for God deeply embedded in the psyche of the Bahamian people. And for that has been a very strong point for the Bahamian people, even when we were a colony. Now that we are now an independent nation, we wanted the same God that brought us through slavery and all the problems that we had to carry us through into nation building. We wanted to start on the right foot. And what a place to start is with God, the supremacy of God, recognizing God as being supreme in our nation, in our national affairs. See, God has a role to play in our national affairs. We are a unique people, a chosen people, a special generation, a peculiar people, to show forth the praises of God. And Reverend Cooper told us that in the independence ceremony, which was July the 10th, 1973.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot forget our heritage, where we came from. So we know why we were established for a specific cause and purpose. Now, over the last 50 years, coming up on our 50th anniversary, we have strayed from some strong foundational principles that are entrenched in that Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have to get back on it because you look at the problems we have today. The murder rates seem to be running wild. There's another one last night.
Madness.
Total madness, which tells you something is seriously wrong with our spiritual development. We don't take that for granted. So people are very much concerned about their personal safety. Yes, that's understandable. But they're also concerned about their spiritual connection to God. Where is God in all of this? Why are we going through all of these things? Because we have not taken the advice from Holy Scripture when we have to make decisions in the national interest of the Bahamian people, dealing with our international people out there who have their ideas about this thing, that thing, the next thing. Fine, it's all right to deal with them. But the point is it in accordance with what God says we ought to be doing as his people? That's what we need to ask ourselves. Is it in accordance with the Holy Scripture? The thing is that we as a people knew that on our own strength, ain't nothing could happen. The same God that brought us through all those issues and problems and trials and tribulations prior to independence can take us through independence and into the future. Now we are 50 years since independence. We have to take another look at why we were established as a nation. Why did God put us here? Why did he give us these chain of islands? For a unique purpose. And there are people who want to take this from us, you know. God never gave it to them. He gave them their things. But they mess up their things and want to take our things. And we have to say, no, you can't come here and take our things. This is what God gave us. Now, God gave you your territory. You handed it over there. God set the boundaries for the different nations. And wherever your boundaries are, that's where you're supposed to be. But in the Commonwealth of Bahamas, with all this water, with all these beautiful islands, with the sun, the sand, the sea. It's more than that, though, because we know there are some other things in there which we didn't know before. Now we're beginning to learn of tremendous value that the Bahamas has. Now, some other fellas want to take it because they want it for themselves. We cannot afford that. So we have to stay with God. We can't leave God out of our national development.
But Professor, there are some who argue that, I know in the United States, I believe, they have this thing about separation of church and state, that they should always be separated, that the two shall ne'er mix. Now, that's not to say that presidents of the United States have not had spiritual advisors. I know that, for instance, the late Billy Graham
Yes, ma'am.
was the spiritual advisor to one or two presidents. But there are those who, in the Bahamas, we like to adopt things that other nations do.
Yes.
And there's some who are arguing that in this day and age, we can't do the supremacy of God thing because everybody's not worshiping the same God, and some people don't believe in God. And so how do you answer those people who say that there should be this separation between church and state?
I'm glad you asked that, because in our Constitution, it doesn't say that. And them other people things they may say. Okay? Now, the thing is, see, the Founding Fathers were generous when they put it in one of the articles for freedom of worship.
Right.
Okay?
So that's not to say that you don't have the
That's
freedom
not
to worship
to
who
say
you
that
will
they
worship.
don't have the freedom of worship.
Right.
They have that. That's entrenched in the Constitution.
Okay.
Now, the thing is, we were founded on certain principles. You cannot allow a minority of people to remove your foundation stones. You want to worship that old cow over there? Go worship your cow. That's your thing. But don't try to put that on the nation, the Bahamian people, because we are under the supremacy of God. That's in our Constitution. You can't overlook that. Because see, without that, without God, we are nothing.
And would you suggest that was not a coincidence that was put in there? It was not happenstance that was put in there? Because from what I've learned is that Reverend Cooper insisted, made it very strongly advocated. Let me put it that way, with the framers of our Constitution, that should be enshrined in there, and they decided to listen to his advice.
Well, they listened to good advice, because you see, those spiritual leaders, they were grounded in God. They wasn't playing. They knew from whence we came. You got to tell these younger people who don't understand. That's why you have the older people. That's why God said the older men to teach the younger men, the older women to teach the younger women. They have the experience, they have the wisdom, they have the training, they have the know-how.
Professor, in our society, we like to throw away older people.
But that's the problem.
They ain't got no value.
That's a big problem. That's why we are so messed up today, because we don't want to appreciate the value. There's tremendous value in the senior citizens in this country.
I would think.
But the thing is, we are adopting standards that go contrary to scriptural principles. Okay? Even Satan himself wanted to say he could take over now and run God out, and he take over the throne. That can't happen. But the thing is that for the nation to remain strong and to achieve the objectives it was founded to achieve, God must be in the picture. If you take that out completely, then you take that out of your Constitution. No, what's the point of having it? It means nothing. It is see, the preamble itself, which we are going through right now, gives you the purpose and the vision of your country. I always hear people talk about, what is the vision for the Bahamas? It's right here, what we're discussing today. This is our purpose for being. This is our vision, what we're supposed to be as a people, what we're supposed to be as a nation. We have to understand why we became a nation. What is the purpose of us being here and what we're supposed to be doing? The preamble spells that out in detail. But I think a lot of people just read it through, run through it, and that's why we're taking the time to pick it to pieces. See, I took this and pick it bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. That is the way to get the message across to the Bahamian people, to see the value of the document. But just glancing at it, like someone told me they were looking for something in the Constitution, because that particular personality, this is a talk show host now talking to me, telling me this nonsense. I say, because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And he wanted me to tell him exactly where it is. I refused to tell him. I say, you the talk shows, you tell the people. You're telling me it's not there? Well, then you go and check it for yourself, because I know it's there. But I never told him where to find it. I say, this is not something you take lightly. You don't do that. It's a serious business. So when I speak about this Constitution, I take it very seriously when I come on this radio station. I don't trifle and I don't play, because for 50 years, our people have suffered because of a lack of understanding of the supremacy of God and the other things mentioned in this preamble.
Mm-hmm. That's powerful. All right, let's take a quick break. First segment done gone already. What a time. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk about the section of our preamble that talks about the people being the inheritors to the successors of this, not this, that's family, islands, rocks, and keys. Child,
please.
Put on your seatbelt.
Tell him it's coming.
It's coming. We're going to take a break. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors. Stay with us.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rim fix and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun.
Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with our guest today, who is Professor Sidney McArthur Walter Thompson. We're breaking down the Constitution of the Bahamas. The telephone numbers to call, 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272. The WhatsApp line for text messages only is 801-0271, 801-0271. Okay. The Constitution Preamble, there's a clause, there's a section in the preamble that says, it talks about being the inheritors to successors to this family islands, rocks and keys. How did the people become the inheritors of these, to the successors of these family islands of rocks and keys? And why is this important for us to know in 2022?
I'm going to answer the first part first.
Mm-hmm.
The Bahamian people are the we. We, the people of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. The inheritors are those who were there at the time of July the 10th, 1973, when we became from a colony to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. There was that transition. Now, there were some who didn't come along with the transition. Remember, we had the election September of 1972, September the 19th. I always remember that day. That's one day after my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And the inheritors and successors to this family of islands, rocks, and keys. That's the Bahamian people.
Mm-hmm.
The we were those who started it out. They are the inheritors, the successors, the generations coming after them, not them people who come here and say they want things. Ain't talking about that crew. That's a different crew.
Okay.
Those who were born to the inheritors, the generations coming after them, lawfully in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, they are the successors. We have successors now. We still got some inheritors around. Ain't gone yet.
Mm-hmm.
We still have our role to play. In fact, it was said in the meeting last night that the adults, those responsible adults, have a role to play for the successors to this family of ours. And I agree with them.
Mm-hmm.
I can make sure I play my role
Mm-hmm.
because we need those young successors to take over from where we would leave off.
Maybe it would be helpful for us to explain what is inheritance.
Inheritance is something that you are given. When you inherited something, you didn't buy it.
Mm-hmm.
It was given to you. God said the gift of the gift of God is eternal life.
Mm-hmm.
You don't buy that. So when you inherit something, it's something that's given to you. All right? Now, we became a nation. So the land, the rocks, the keys, the water, everything is now the possession of the Bahamian people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people have an argument with that, but that's their thing. But I'm going with what the Constitution says.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We, the inheritors and successors of this family, as rock and keys. We have to take that seriously. That's in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So now there are some people who say the things belong to them. Now, we have to protect what we have because we have a constitutional right to do so. The inheritors cannot sit back and say, well, just let it go. We got people to succeed us, to come after us. We have to protect our interests and their interests, and then they in turn protect the interests of those coming after them.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you become a successor, you receive something from someone who was there before you. You now succeed. It could be either you buy it or it was given to you. In this case, you become a successor to this family of islands, which belong to the Bahamian people. We have our own flag. We have one nation under God. We inherited this family of island rocks and keys. We were a colony before then. Now we are a separate, independently. Now we're going a little bit ahead, but I'll just say that point in there because we can get to that point. That's another point people need to understand. But no, right now, we are the owners of the Bahama Islands, the Bahamian people.
Is that a call for the show? We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Good afternoon, Lady Malcolm, and to your guest, Professor McArthur Walter Thompson.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, you're right. Both of you are right on target, but I stand, I rise on a point of correction or information in this house today. You asked a very, very, very key question, Lady Malcolm. What is inheritance? Very key, very key. McArthur Walter Thompson provided the other side when he said that inheritance is something that was given to you. That is correct. Back up a little bit. In order to inherit something from somebody giving it to you, especially if it's a will or something like that, the person that gave it to you has to outright disassociate themselves with you and say, go with this, or they must die in order for the will or whatever they have intestate, which is the preamble of our Constitution, the inheritance of these rocks and keys. They must die or go on to something else, like if we want to go republic and get away from the monarchy altogether, then that comes into play. That's why we've been lingering all these years, lingering, and the person who still controls the rocks and keys is the Queen's representative, the Governor General, by extension, the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. That's what she said, the inheritance of the rocks and keys, that is intestate. I would like to hear Mr. McArthur Walter Thompson's response to that.
Thank you so much for calling.
I knew that would have been coming at some point, but I'll put it to him this way, Article 71, and I'm sort of getting ahead of us in the Constitution. It does specifically say, and there's some merit to what he's saying, the executive authority of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas rests with Her Majesty the Queen. That's one whole article right there, that one sentence. What is this executive authority of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas? I agree with him, with his analogy talking about intestate, because a will doesn't come into effect until the person who made the will dies. I agree with that. It comes into full force.
Right.
Remember now that when we became an independent nation, the founding fathers didn't move away from the monarchy. We still have to deal with the monarchy. So he has a valid point. I can't dispute that because it's in the Constitution where it says Her Majesty the Queen is the one having the executive authority. That's real power. That ain't no figurehead thing. I try to make people understand. That's in the Constitution, Article 71. One sentence, boom. So we have to deal with that. And I agreed. I'm happy that he called and then he pointed that out. That he's correct. So now the Bahamian people have determined through a referendum, because that's the only way it could change. There ain't no little law and some other fellas want to write up and say they can change it. Can't happen like that. So that's foolishness. It has to be done in a referendum. So I think his point is valid. I cannot dispute that.
Speaking of which, we have a comment on Facebook from Latanya. Latanya says, we must realize that this intended attack on our Constitution is a result of the 39 MPs and the 16 senators. The problem is that 39 were elected for the betterment of the country, not the agenda of the world. Mr. Pinder was selected by the government to push this agenda, which is an assault on our Constitution. He's not alone in this, the whole executive legislative body, not just one man. How do you respond to that person?
No, I have to say this. I heard the remarks made by the Attorney General.
Mhm.
And I don't think he's just speaking for himself.
Obviously not.
Okay. He made some things which were quite insulting to the Bahamian people. And you don't tell me that you're going to make a decision for us, which we ought to be making for ourselves. Like I said, you can't have the cake and eat it too. When the election was held on September 16th, they didn't come back and say, you all sure you all want to give us 32 seats? Maybe we need to get 7. And the other party get 32. Was that a mistake? They ran with the whole 32 and tell them other fellas, you all keep 7. Because that's all you can get. Then prior to that, you had one party, the F&M party, 35 out of 39. The PLP got 4. Did they say that's a mistake? Maybe the Bahamian people wasn't too sure what they were doing. They made a terrible mistake to give the F&M 35 seats. No, they didn't make no mistake. That's what happened. That's the harsh reality we have to face. So don't talk foolishness when you come talking about you have to make a decision. It's not always the right decision when you go to referendum. Listen, the result of a referendum is the result of the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and they're always right. They're never wrong. You may disagree with what they say. Well, that's your problem. But they cannot be wrong because they have a right to make that final determination as spelled out in their own constitution. The people of the country has to make that right, not a particular personality or a group of individuals, independent apart from the Commonwealth, the Bahamian people.
So I take it what you're saying is that this whole move towards making these changes to our nationality requirements is unconstitutional, and if so, what does that mean as it relates to the options that the people have if the existing government persists in going down that road?
If the government of the Bahamas persists, and from things what I understood in this asylum bill, it's from the things that I heard last night, extremely unconstitutional. I don't know how they get all mixed up like that. And that's why I hadn't seen the bill before. The first time I heard about it was last night, so I couldn't really speak to it directly, but I'll get a copy of it. But the thing is, if a government persists in doing it, then the Bahamian people could be persist in opposing the government. That's where Article 24.1 kicks in, that last phrase, Article 24.1. Where the people, see, I keep saying to people, you have to be organized, well organized, because you don't know what appropriate action you may deem necessary to take. So when a government does something, the Bahamian people have to push against it and say, listen, man, you're going the wrong way. And some of them, they head hard, so you got to spank them up a little bit to get their attention. And we're going to have to do that as Bahamian citizens. You don't allow a government to run away with this. We could crush this, what they're coming up with, we could crush it before it gets to the house, if the Bahamian people are willing to do it. But the pressure has to mount. What we saw last night was only the beginning of pressure. But the point is that the Bahamian people have to be insisting and tell your representative that, hey, it can't go this way. We don't agree with that. This asylum thing that you all have there, what do you propose to bring to the House of Assembly? Because there are just too many things in it that are unconstitutional, and it's going to put the Bahamian people at a terrible disadvantage.
I watch, one of the things that I love to do is I watch U.S. elections, right? Or when they have various, because, the U.S. system is different from ours.
Yes, it is.
So they have different elections for different districts, etc., that are separate and apart from their, what we call a general election, national election. And from time to time, they also hold referenda where they ask the people of a particular district or the nation as a whole whether or not they want to, it's usually a district, whether or not they want to change a particular thing. But one of the things that they do is they have, even though it all happens on that one election day, they have, say if there are 4 questions, they have them individually listed as 4 separate things that they asked the electorate, do you want to enshrine this?
Yes.
Do you want to change? In other words, they don't tie them all together. So it could be where I'm a voter, I go into the booth to vote, I decide that I want to say yes to question 1, but no to question 2,
Precisely.
no to question 3, yes to question 4, yes to question 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Each stands on its own feet.
Yes.
Each, even though I'm answering them all at the same occasion,
Yes.
one does not affect the other. They're not tied together as
Together.
one thing. So
Yes.
all have to pass in order for one to pass, or all have to fail in order for. They're all individual and separate.
Yes.
Our system is not designed to work that way? Because it seems like when we put these questions to referendum, they all mix up into this one pot. Explain how it works, please.
I'm glad you asked that, because see, the thing is, you got to ask who's putting it forth.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's the thing you need to ask. Who's putting the questions forth? Is it coming from the people, or is it coming from those other fellas who may have an agenda?
Okay.
And I think evidence would show what that really is.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, the Bahamian people should be determining what changes should be in our Constitution. Let me give an example. Article 7.1. We need to do something with that. Bahamians make note of that. Because 7.1 has been abused tremendously in this country.
Mm-hmm.
They've ignored Article 7.2, but they abused 7.1. It's caused a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to fix that. We can start with that one and make it retroactive right to the very beginning, July the 10th, 1973. The Bahamian people have to demand that. Don't sit and wait for these particular personalities to come and say they're going to do it. Let's insist that it get done. We could start with that. But this thing that I heard last night, it's all mixed up. It's all kapunkel up. The point is, if that goes through, well, that's supposed to be some statute law they're trying to push through. You cannot use statute law to change constitutional law. Let's get that point straight. That could never happen. But the Bahamian people could put such enormous pressure on the government. They'd say, you know something? You better stop. Don't fool with that. That ain't gonna work with us. And just let it die. But the pressure has been mounted by the Bahamian people.
I asked this question because I would hate to see, well, I guess this is why the sitting government has decided that they ain't going that route anymore. But I think a part of our problem in the past has been that things were all mixed up together, whether in the minds of the people based on misinformation or whether the way it was structured, I'm not sure. But things, in my opinion, that should have been given approval were not, because they were all mixed up together. And the narrative was, if you pass this, then you pass all of this.
Okay.
Is that correct? And is that assessment correct?
I'm not disagreeing with you. You're quite right. You're quite right. But see now, who was setting this up? Did that come from the people?
No, of course not.
Okay, all right. But see, that's what we need to understand. We need to go to the people. Let the people say. Ask them about Article 7.1. You'll see how fast that will pass. Change that. Tell you that much. If they really want to see real change, you ask the Bahamian people. They are awakened now. They see what has been happening. They see the kind of governance we have had almost 50 years since independence. And I'm saying that the Bahamian people have enough sense to be able to make sound decisions and good judgments. They've always done it. Even though those who say they're in power or have authority or been given authority to run the affairs of the Bahamian people are saying, listen, you can't make the decision. We ain't going along with that. But you have to go along with it. But there's a way to deal with that too. But the Bahamian people have to insist, we ain't going along with that, what you want to do. And see how quickly they'll move away from it.
Okay, so let's get back to this inheritors and successors to the family of islands, rocks, and keys. You talked about boundaries and the importance of understanding boundaries as have been laid out. I would like to suggest that the reason why the Bahamas is in such hot demand is because of where we've been placed on the planet.
That's right.
We have been placed very strategically by God.
Praise the Lord.
And because we are right on the doorstep of the most powerful nation in the world,
yes,
that puts us in a very
unique
high
position.
profile, unique
Position.
and desired position.
That is correct. That is correct.
The most powerful nation in the world has to be concerned about what happens in our nation because we're right on their doorstep.
Right on their doorstep. That is correct.
And all the others who may have a little beef with them won't get their hooks in us because we're right on their doorstep.
That's correct.
So we are in a very strategic, very important place, small as we are. It seems that many powerful nations are very much interested in cementing their place in these little islands, rocks, and keys. It ain't just the illegal immigrants who coming through here.
No, you got some big fish out there.
What?
Huge.
You want me to start naming them? We see all of the interest from China, but there are others.
Yeah,
Russia is interested in what is happening in this country. There are others. So we have to understand our value and our worth. We have to stop looking at ourselves as, well, we just a little small island developing state and understand the position that we are in.
You see why the Constitution talks about a national commitment to do some things to preserve our freedom. That is the responsibility of the elected government, They're supposed to be leading the way. That has not happened yet in 50 years. We do not understand collectively our worth in the world, our worth as a nation. We undersell it all the time because the Bahamian people are not fully aware. Because a lot of things what we sign on to, we wouldn't even fool around with them. Because they don't mean anything to us. It may mean something to them other fellas. But it means nothing to us. It's a drag on the nation. It pulls you down. There's no benefit in it. Those countries got all kind of unique problems what we don't even have here. And you fool around with them, they bring all their burdens and their sorrows and their pain and their anguish with them on top of us. And we're not even looking out for our own selves. So we have to understand the worth of this family of islands, rocks, and keys. It's extremely valuable. And Bahamians need to understand that. So don't be sitting down and just saying, well, oh, woe is me. We have to get into our psyche the value of this estate that God has blessed the Bahamian people with. Because everyone out there in the world, all those are the big fish out there, they want to gobble up the Bahamas for themselves. They're not interested in our welfare. Anytime you see a stranger walking here with his briefcase, he's not interested in us. And our leaders need to understand that. Our people need to understand that. That's why we have to put pressure on the government. We cannot just sit back and allow the government to just go making all these strange arrangements with strangers, foreigners, aliens, and outsiders to the detriment of the Bahamian people. And all we get is crumbs. That doesn't make any sense.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the story of Jacob and Esau.
Yes.
Because Esau was by right of his being the firstborn.
The firstborn, yes.
It was his birthright to inherit.
That's correct.
We get back to that word inheritance.
Inheritance, yes.
Right? But because he didn't value his inheritance and the importance of his inheritance, he just gave it away for a bowl of porridge.
He certainly did.
So are we at danger of doing the same thing metaphorically, where we just giving away our nation, whether it be to the illegal immigrants, because I hear this argument all the time, which I think is the stupidest argument in the world.
Yes,
Well, what you want us to do? They already here. I think that is such a stupid thing to say.
It is. I agree with you, Ms. Malcolm. It is. But it's the lack of understanding that our people have. See, they've never been taught, They've never been taught what it means to be a national commitment for something. There are some very specific things the nation ought to be committed to. The government of the Bahamas has failed to do it from its inception. It has never been done. So the people out there are so disorganized, disoriented, do not understand the value of this place. So they will tell you, well, child, please, they're born here. They should be here. What utter nonsense and foolishness. But we got to stop not knowing now. That's what I say to the Bahamian people. We've got to get to see the worth, the value of this Constitution, the value of this real estate that God has blessed us with, because it's extremely valuable. But if we don't see it and we allow others to come in and take it away from us, we'll lose it.
Well,
that's what's going to happen.
You hear what Penland had to say?
Oh, yes. He said it. He said it correctly. If we don't take care of what we have, we will lose it. And I don't think we could afford, because with the awakening I see now, we have people who have come to see, listen, we have to fight to keep what we have to take the nation further. It's going to be a big fight. Bahamians, this ain't no easy fight, not for the faint-hearted. You've got to be able to stand your ground, even though you're going to have those who are going to criticize you and ridicule you. You're going to have that. But if enough of us stand our ground, we can win the fight. With God, of course, now, not on your own strength. Mm-hmm. That's not going to work. That's why God is supreme. The God of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is the God of the Holy Bible. Now, them other fellas got their God. They could keep them. But the point is, we are a peculiar people. We've been blessed, tremendously blessed. In spite of the problems that we have, God has still favored us. And I believe we can achieve the objective that is in the Constitution, which we have not yet achieved as a nation.
All right, we got to take a break, but bottom line is we got to stop giving away our birthright for
we have to, yes, ma'am.
Stop it. It's too valuable for that.
Extremely valuable.
Let's take this break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Professor Sidney McArthur Walter Thompson, and we are breaking down the Constitution. We're still in the preamble, about halfway through.
Halfway through, yeah.
About halfway through.
Yes,
stay with us. We'll be back after these with some sponsors.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Longevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, tints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, fuel, track life, tough, rough racing, velocity, mud, all-terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Less is love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
We are back. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company, along with Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson. You see how it's rolling off my tongue now? I struggle with your name no more.
I know.
It's just rolling off the tongue.
You'll get to it. You know how many people said that last night? I just smile. And another thing is the people who were meeting me for the first time, they were so excited to see me.
Right.
Say they hadn't met me. They heard about me. They hadn't met me. And there was tremendous conversation down.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I started to watch it, but I got distracted doing something else, so I have to go back and watch the full thing. But from what I saw, boy, there was some fireworks up in that place last night. Lord have mercy. Is that a call for the show? All right, caller on the line. Welcome to GPS.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for taking my call. I wonder if we can put a value to citizenship. Like, life is priceless. I wonder if the professor can put a value to citizenship. Maybe if we look at it as having a value or priceless, then we probably need to start taking some of them back. Because when you look at it, clutter is the enemy of clarity. Like I repeat, clutter is what these people bring, and they're bringing the enemy to us being clear and see clearly. Maybe we should put a value that they just can't reach, or you have to really, let's say every once in a while you have to prove that you know the Bahamas, you take a test or something, because obviously we have a bunch of people here who don't want to be here, but then can't get out of here because they can't pass through. Clutter. Thanks for taking the call.
Thank you for calling. It's amazing that you would ask that question, because during the break, the professor and I were talking about something very similar, and you made a point, Professor, about how there are no barriers to, say, even an office as high as the office of the Prime Minister. Go ahead and explain what you were talking about.
That is correct, because, see, a person could be a citizen today.
Mm-hmm.
Then shortly down the road, that same person could be Prime Minister. That's very dangerous.
Now, when you say be a citizen today, what do you mean by that?
That is, a person may be duly sworn in as a citizen. Nothing stops him from running. Nothing at all. He could run in the election.
So this is the person. He's a citizen. This is the person who could have. I got to be careful how I say this.
This person could have had a checkered background, which we ought to check thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
See, maybe we need to look at the way how we have citizenship structured.
Mm-hmm.
Article 7.1, we need to change that. I ever say that right off the top. That we could deal with that one first. All I'm saying is the person could be Prime Minister, a stranger, foreign, and alien outside who's now, quote unquote, a citizen of the Bahamas. A person could run.
But somebody would argue with you, Professor, and say, well, that should be their right to run, because according to our law, once they become a citizen, they have all rights and freedoms of any other citizen in the country.
Simply because we didn't look at our Constitution to make appropriate changes over that 50-year span. Now, we are living in a dangerous world. We just can't leave it the way it is, you know. The office of Prime Minister is wide open. You get the wrong person in that office, hell could break loose in this country. It's just as simple as that. I make no apologies for it, because it's the truth. The founding fathers could not have seen 50 years down the road. I respect that. But those of us who are here now and see how the world operates and see things happening in this country, there's some funny things going on around this place, you know. So we have to make appropriate changes that are necessary and essential for our stability as a people. That's what we have to do. Because you don't know what's in the mind and psyche of these people who are now, quote unquote, in fact, we don't even know who they are. They're being sworn in all the time. We don't know who they are. We ought to know potential citizens so we could question them. But you just can't keep adding citizens over and over and over again.
Well, you know, Professor, you know, adding citizens, that's become a political tool. You know,
Of
every
course.
election, we got a bunch of new
Of course.
sworn in Bahamians because we need them votes.
7-1 has been abused. 7-1 was never, ever for a bunch of illegal aliens coming in here and for some other nefarious purposes, which have been used to buffer some things for the benefit of a few people. That's not good. It's dangerous and it's detrimental to the welfare of the Bahamian people and the stability of your country. Only by the mercies of God we're still here, you know. God has been withholding it back because there are people who are praying in this country who are asking God to intervene on our behalf, and he will, even though the foolishness is going on. But he will have to intervene. For the sake of the elect, he will have to intervene. But the point is, I am so delighted to see that people are waking up to what's going on. That's a wonderful thing. That's good for democracy. So there is hope that changes can be made to protect the most valuable document we have, which is our salvation document, which is the Constitution. So we can't take it lightly. And I am delighted to see that people are looking at it differently now because of the fact that the way we have been governed, that's one, those who had the power and authority to govern the country. And number two, the mounting internal problems we have had over the last 50 years. Look at the crime wave. Look at the murder rate right now. We already reached 90, you know. I got 90 people murdered, slaughtered in this country. The man said he didn't want it to go up to 100. But I'll just put a question mark to that. But the point is that the people are beginning to see, look, we got pressures without, pressure within, these mounting internal problems, and the fact that the way how those who've been given the authority to govern this place, the kind of job they have done, which has been dismal for the most part, and the Bahamian people are hurting because of the mounting problems we have internally and the external pressure from some fellas who want some things to go their way. Those factors have contributed to the fact that Bahamians are now saying, maybe something's wrong somewhere. We got to look at this a little bit more closely. Maybe our Constitution, we need to look at it a little bit more closely. And I'm happy to see that the Bahamian people are doing it. So Bahamians, keep the pressure on.
So is this why it's important for us as a people to define what we as a nation recognize and believe in?
Exactly. We have to define it. We can't just leave it loose. When it says a national commitment to do some specific things, that must become the psyche of the Bahamian people. National commitment to self-discipline. National commitment to unity. What is it? And I asked that question, I can put it out again. What is it that we can tell the government of the Bahamas, unified by the Bahamian people with one voice, this is what we want? Because there is something that can unify the Bahamian people, where all of them will agree on.
lock, stock, and barrel. Now, people have their differences, they have their opinions, they have their ideas. The Constitution allows for that. I tell people all the time, I can get vexed with you because you have a different opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to what the law says, what the Constitution says, that's a whole different horse of a different color. Now, my duty is to help the brother and the sister to understand what the Constitution is. That's like the gentleman who called in. He made a valid point. I have to agree with him because it's constitutional, Ms. Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it says we are the inheritors and successors to this family violence. You can't ignore Article 71, because we didn't get that far yet. But he brought it up, and he's valid. He's right in point. I can't disagree. Anything that's constitutional, I go along with it. It has nothing to do with whether I believe it, well, whether I agree with it or not. I always agree with the Constitution because the Constitution is always right. I have opinions too, but those opinions don't mean nothing much. It's just as good as the woman in Baintown with the 5 boys, the man in Foxwood with 6 girls, the woman in Engliston with 4 disabled children. My opinion is just as good as theirs. Or the judge sitting on the bench making an opinion and calling it law. It don't go that way. But what the Constitution says is what's important. And my duty as a responsible citizen is to help the Bahamian people to know this document. I will do that by the grace of God.
All right. Okay, let's keep trudging through the preamble of the Constitution. My next question to you is, what are the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual?
That's a good question. In fact, you got whole sections just dealing with the fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual.
Mm-hmm.
Freedoms of the individual person.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because the individual has freedoms. And it says any person in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Constitution applies to citizens as well as non-citizens. But they're in the Bahamas, any person. Now, there are some things that do not apply to persons who are not citizens. Let's get that point straight, too.
Okay.
All right? So, the individual person, we have entrenched principles that protect the interests of the individual. Property rights, freedom of movement, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom to impart ideas and opinions without interference. People messing with that every day in this country. I don't like it at all. And a lot of people are, well, people who have the authority to do this, you know, they are in a certain clique and position. And because they don't agree, they shut them out. That's unconstitutional. As long as they are not damaging someone's character or maligning someone's character or saying something negative that is not truthful about them, they should be allowed to express their view. But I've noticed that's not happening. That's unconstitutional. And I tell people that all the time. See, I listen carefully to what people say, you know. That's how I learn what's going on out there. Because they tell me. So even though I know better when they talk some foolish things, I just smile. But I ain't gonna berate them because the Constitution says they have a right to some basic fundamental freedom of religion. That's a fundamental right of the individual. Freedom to own property. Freedom from fear and injustice. You got a whole slew of things to talk about fundamental rights and freedom of the individual. If we get to that section, you got all kinds of sections dealing with that. Fundamental rights and freedoms of the individual, as well as, and we got to understand this now, there are some things that are national. Notice they talk about the national commitment first, and then freedoms of the individual. Now, both are important. Because you got to take care of the fella in Baintown. You got to take care of the woman, the man in Foxwood with them 6 daughters he got there. They have individual rights and freedoms too. You can't have people walking on them and mistreating them and abusing them and torturing them.
Now, when you're talking about those people, are you talking about every individual within the country, whether they're here legally or illegally, or you're talking about all citizens of the Bahamas? I think that's where people get confused.
That's a good point. That's a valid point, and I'm glad you asked that.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, there's some things in the Constitution that only apply to citizens.
Okay.
That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, it says any person.
It doesn't say any citizen.
No, it doesn't say any citizen.
Right.
See, now a person could be a non-citizen, a person could be a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's why I tell people you got to understand the language. It says any person. And I looked at it and I said, but it didn't say any citizen. It didn't say any resident.
So this is why some argue that even though they may not be here legally, they have rights.
Under the Constitution, they have certain rights not to be tortured, not to be abused, not to be taken advantage of. Yes, that would apply to them.
Mm-hmm.
But now you arrest them because they're here illegally and you send them back home from whence they came. You cannot allow them to just run around, run freely. No. That's not for them. One, you're not here legally. So you need to be arrested, taken care of, and sent out.
Okay, I have a question. We often hear about universal human rights.
I've heard that too.
One of them is a right to education.
Yes.
Another is a right to health care. There are some who argue that our systems are being burdened by illegal immigrants who are taking advantage of those systems and rights more than the citizens. So in other words, they argue that our schools are being overrun by the children of illegal immigrants, or our health care is being significantly burdened by illegal immigrants who pay for nothing, who, apart from if you argue that they contribute to our economy by providing cheap labor, if that's an argument, but who don't pay taxes like Bahamians do, but yet are taking advantage of the systems. Now, let me ask you this, and this is going to be a bit of a controversial question.
Yes, ma'am.
When I went off to school at university in New Jersey many years ago, the particular college, now university, where I went to study had two rates for fees for classes. As an international student, a student who was not American, who was not a resident of New Jersey, which is where the school was where I went.
Yes.
I had to pay more for my education. Each credit cost more to me
yes.
than it did to an American citizen or a resident of New Jersey in particular.
Yes, ma'am.
They had what they call in-state and out-of-state fees. And as international students, they didn't deny us the right to the education. But we had to pay a hell of a lot more
yes.
than the American students had to pay.
Yes.
Why is it in our country, and you could tell me if this is unconstitutional or not, or goes against human rights or not, why is it in our country that we allow our systems to be used at such a high level by persons who are here apparently illegally without requiring them to at least pay for the services? That is not to deny them the service.
Yes.
It is just saying you are not a citizen of this country. You are not contributing to this country financially. You're not paying taxes here. So if you are going to utilize the services that our taxpayers are paying for,
yes.
then by rights, you should have to pay for these services as opposed to receiving them for free, which should be a privilege to our citizens only. Well, is that unconstitutional? What are your thoughts on that?
That is, I'm happy that you put it that way. I'm going to answer it this way. I've heard this argument many times. Any government that puts its own citizens in danger for strangers, foreigners, aliens, and outsiders should not even have the right to govern the country. That's point number one.
Mm-hmm.
Point number two, those who have been elected to do the national business of the Bahamian people. Their first duty is, what did the Constitution say? A national commitment to some specific things. Their duty is to protect the interests of its citizens, its own people. Point number 3.
Mm-hmm.
If there are strangers, foreigners, aliens, and outsiders, you can't come and tell me some convention somewhere say, we must do this, we must do that. They ain't bringing no money. They ain't bringing no money, Ms. Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
We got these bunch of children around here. When I went to school, I had to know who my ma was, who my pa was, who I was living with. They had to come and present themselves. Now I'm hearing that these people are saying, y'all got to take these people in. No mommy, no daddy. You don't know who they're living with. You don't know who is really who. That didn't happen in my day. I don't know where they get this foolishness from. But if the government of the Bahamas is operating like that, it is not in the best interest of the Bahamian people. And it would be unconstitutional for us to behave that way because some convention somewhere. Listen, the supreme law of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is not a convention, you know.
Mm.
It's the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I heard this thing about universal declaration rights and that kind of thing.
Right.
While I have no problem with it per se, I simply try to get people to understand we're a nation. We can't take on the burdens of all of these people to the detriment of our own children, our own students who cannot get into the schools. We overcrowd them with these other people, and there's no room for our own people. That's a very foolish thing to do. It's a stupid thing to do. The Bahamian people have to rise up and fight it. See, these are the kind of things I keep saying to people, we have to rise up and fight. Because it's not in our best interests. We can't just sit back and allow a government to continue to push these things down our throats. We have to tell them, no, that has to stop. If they don't stop it, then the Bahamian people have to stop them. It's just that simple. But if we sit back and keep taking it, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's fair. I agree with those countries who decide international students, you pay more because you're not a taxpayer.
Mm-hmm.
That's all well and good because this service has to be paid for.
Right.
That hospital has to be paid for. Those nurses in there, they've been arguing about money from that time, you know. But they still ain't getting enough because the competition beats us every time.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get ready and they see where they can make a move, they're gone. Can you blame them? No. But then at the same time, we need our people here too. But we can't keep making excuses and saying we have to handle this burden ourselves because of what some other people say we should be doing. Because a nation must always act in its best interest. That's why you have elected persons to take care of our business.
So it wouldn't go against the Constitution if they decided tomorrow, you have access to our healthcare system. You just have to pay for it.
Exactly.
That wouldn't be against the Constitution.
That would not be unconstitutional. It would be in accordance with the Constitution. Because remember now, the beneficiaries of this document are the very people of this country, you know, not some other people. The people who live here, who pay taxes, who keep this place going, they're the ones who have first priority. Everybody else is secondary. I don't know where we get this foolishness from. Do you allow everybody to come in your house who want to eat your food, lay in your bed, tell you go lay on the floor? Do you allow that? People will say no.
No.
Well, then this house is our Bahamas. This is our house. So you let the man throw you out the bed, say you go lay on the floor. It's the same principle. So we have to look at it objectively. Now, we have leaders who can't do it. You say goodbye. We have to change you. We have to move on. And that's what the Bahamian people have to understand. We have to take the appropriate action that is essential to bring change. But it has to be an organized movement of people. It can't be just scattery and you decide, well, okay, on the spur of the moment you want to do this. No. The people have to be ready for change. The people have to be ready to make a sound decision and a good judgment. And I think if you educate the Bahamian people properly, they will do it.
The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line to send us a text message is 801-0271, 801-0271 is the number to send us a text message if you so desire. I even inject I so deep in this conversation, I even inject the phone to see if anybody been sending any messages. All right. I'm going to read one comment from Facebook and then we're going to take another break. It says, successive governments got away with this treasonous discussion have been allowed because our people have been ignorant concerning our constitutional rights.
Let me just make a correction to that caller.
Okay.
The word ignorance is very strong. I never use that word ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I know better than most people. I would say to the Bahamian people, and I say this with the greatest care and respect to the Bahamian people, lack of understanding. See, now they ain't gonna have that any longer as long as Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson is there.
Mm-hmm.
I can make sure that that lack of understanding is in the past. From this day onward, we have a responsibility to help the Bahamian people to know better. That's why I was happy to talk with those people who met me the first time in the meeting last night.
Mm-hmm.
They said they heard a lot about me, but never met me. And they asked me a lot of questions, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I was ready to answer all of them. But the point is that, you know, you do not insult the people. Because, see, I want them to change, Ms. Malcolm. I'm not going to insult them. I may disagree with some things they say.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hear them talk nonsense, I just smile. But I'm not going to offend them because they don't know better. Now, see, after the day, and you begin to learn, you begin to understand, then let us start doing better because we need solutions to these problems. We can't stay the way we are because we got to make some changes to our own constitution, which we have not yet done. We got to make some serious changes to it. That's a different issue altogether. But the point is that we got to know what's in it first before we make those changes.
Which leads me to this question from one of our Facebook viewers. Why is this not taught in our schools?
That's a good question. I answer it this way. I am going to tell the Bahamian people, please ask those whom you've given the authority to run this country for the last 56 years why they've not asked the Minister of Education, ask your Prime Minister, ask your former Prime Ministers. Why? It's a good question. When I hear them answer it, then I'll respond to it. I want to hear from what they have to say. I have an understanding why it has not been done. But I want you to put that kind of questioning to the people you gave the power to run your national affairs. That's who you should be asking. It's a good question, but it needs to be answered from them. And let them make it public so the public could hear it and understand why they say they didn't do this or did not do that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, wow, so much to cover.
Yes,
so little time. We're talking with Professor Sidney McArthur, Walter Thompson. This is a masterclass on the Constitution of the Bahamas. Stay with us.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun.
And we are back. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with my guest today and every Monday until we get through this Constitution thing. And the guest is Professor Sidney McArthur Walter Thompson. We are doing a series of master classes on the Constitution, and I am really enjoying this conversation, or these series of conversations, and hope that you are as well. If you'd like to ask a question, chime in. The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272. The WhatsApp line to send us a text message is 8010271, 8010271. All right, we are still in the preamble, and I want to turn my attention now to the section that talks about preserving and guaranteeing. What does it mean to preserve and guarantee something?
There's some specific things you have to do to preserve and guarantee what we have. Guarantee means that you have to take a specific course of action for a desired result to happen. Preserve means to keep. The thing is that if we don't have some very specific things, ain't no guarantee on nothing. You just can't run a country or a nation just by doing anything flippantly. There have to be some specific foundational principles that you go by. And that's what this preamble is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, you have the blueprint. So if you forget, you go back and read it again. And there are times when you may have discussion because there could be some misunderstanding. That could happen. So you have to keep going back. See, a fellow like me, I keep going back over the Constitution, even though I know it very well. I don't just leave it to say, well, because sometimes I check some things 3 and 4 times to make sure that I know that I know that I know that I know, even though I know it. But I don't just leave it like that because it's serious business. It's your supreme law.
Right.
You can't take it trivial and take it lightly. When it comes to this Constitution, I never take it lightly. Now, them other things with them fellas right now, that's a different kettle of fish. I look at them in light of what the Constitution says. So I could take at a glance and say, this part is unconstitutional, that part is unconstitutional, this part is constitutional. I could do that because I'm trained to do that. But the thing is, you cannot guarantee anything if you don't have standards. You cannot preserve anything if those standards are not maintained. You lose everything. And we don't need that in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. So the preserving and the guaranteeing means that we have to do some very specific thing to guarantee our freedom. This is the key you need to use to make sure that you have it. So we just can't say, just sit back and let anything happen. That's not going to work.
Okay, let's talk about what it means to be a free and sovereign democratic nation. Because early in the show, you talked about the fact that the Queen still has quite a bit of influence over this nation, whether or not we consider ourselves to be independent as of 1973. People are still serving. How does it go now? At the pleasure. How does it go? You still
at the pleasure of Her Majesty the
heirs and successors to the throne.
Throne, yes,
yeah,
that's correct.
So how does that fit in with us, with this narrative of us being a free and sovereign democratic nation?
That's an interesting point that you brought up. I'm explaining it this way.
When
the Founding Fathers did their work, they didn't move away from the monarchy. All right? We got our independence. Some people say we didn't work for it. And when I hear people make those kind of comments, they don't appreciate the hard work of our Founding Fathers. Do not take it lightly. We didn't have no big war where we were killing up a lot of people. This was called the Quiet Revolution. Okay? The point is that they decided to stay with the monarchy, even though we were declared independent. We are a sovereign independent state. Now, we still have the Queen as the head of our country. We didn't become a republic. And Bahamians need to think about what they want to do. If you're going to remove Her Majesty the Queen, then that's a referendum. And then, what's going to happen, Ms. Malcolm? Many articles in the Constitution have to change. Many. It's like rewriting it all over again. So we have to be careful now. Even the office of Prime Minister. See, the powers of the Governor General are so interwoven through and through the document. The powers of Prime Minister through and through the document. If you can change the office of Prime Minister, you have to change a whole lot of articles right off the top. You're going to move the monarchy, you got to change a whole lot of articles in the Constitution right off the top. So I tell people you got to know what you're asking for. Are we ready for that? That I put a question mark to it. Are we ready for that?
Are we ready for what specifically?
If the Bahamian people want to move toward a republic.
Okay.
Now, they have a right to do so, but we have to be very careful. What kind of republic are you interested in having? What does that mean? I ask people all the time, what is a republic? I know what we have now. I'm not saying it's perfect, but we have to work with what we have. But if we want to become something else, that's the right of the Bahamian people to decide that in a referendum.
But Professor, some may argue that, we became independent in 1973. And I believe with all of my heart that the framers of the Constitution and the early lawmakers under an independent Bahamas did have a vision for this nation.
Yes.
They knew where they wanted to see it go. And I think they laid a very good framework and a very good foundation for where they wanted the nation to go. But they couldn't live forever.
No.
And clearly, times moved on. They, died, moved on. And many argue that we are in a Bahamas today that looks nothing like the Bahamas that they envisioned or the one that they foresaw in the future.
Yes.
There are some who might argue that the system was better run when we were completely under British rule, when we were not an independent nation, but we were a colony. When I'll use Turks and Caicos as an example. The Turks and Caicos are still a colony of Great Britain. And as a colony, Great Britain still, for the most part, determines how their country is run, particularly as it relates to budgetary constraints.
Yes.
They don't allow them to overspend more than like in the position we find ourselves in now, where we're in billions of dollars in debt.
In debt, yes, that's correct.
If we were still under Great Britain, they would have never allowed us to get to this position.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's some who are arguing, or some who would argue, that we have done a piss poor job of being an independent and sovereign and free democratic nation, because here we find ourselves in this position where the Bahamas doesn't seem to be doing as well as it ought to be doing. And there are others who would argue that under the British rule, Bahamians were second and third and fourth and fifth class citizens in their country.
Yes.
So you have to weigh the balance between the two to see which one carries the most weight. Because honestly, I think some people are afraid of becoming a republic, because being a part of the monarchy, even though some say even though you say it's more than symbolic, but if we doing this much mess while we're still a part of the monarchy, where the queen is still, for all intents and purposes, head of state,
yes.
Imagine if we were to completely cut that system off and go republic. And I think that's why a lot of people are scared of that, because the attitude is, man, look here. We doing this much foolishness as part of the monarchy. Imagine now how much further we would be heading in the wrong direction if we had the complete autonomy of being a republic. How do you respond to that?
No, you brought up some very interesting points, and I can understand the fears of Bahamian people. I think those fears are valid, because you look at 50 years of governance by persons who had the authority to run this country since independence. The record is right there for everybody to see. We should be better off as a nation, but we are not. We got more problems now, 50 years later, than we had when we first started out. The country is in dire straits. We got this national debt that is so high. It has to do with the quality of the people we send to run our national affairs. I don't blame the people for being skeptical of the republic, because I asked the question too, what is a republic? Because the executive authority of your country rests with Her Majesty the Queen. It didn't say the Governor General. It didn't say the government. It didn't say the Prime Minister. You got to understand the wording of the Constitution. Her Majesty the Queen. That's one single person with that authority. Nobody else. And people need to understand that. Now, if you're going to remove the monarchy, you got to change a whole lot of articles in the Constitution. You want to change the office of Prime Minister stands now, you got to change a whole lot of articles in the Constitution. The question I'm asking is, are we ready for that? Do we want to do that? We got to sit down and discuss this very intelligently. You don't take this thing lightly. This is our life. We've gone over 50 years. We got a lot of experience. The intent of the founding fathers, they would rise up today now and see where we are. They'll be disappointed.
Man, look, I think some of them spinning in their grave.
In their graves, yes.
We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Professor and Michelle. Listen, there's something was bothering me from all last night after hearing, and the professor was there. He was a part of the panel. There was a statement made in in that declaration from the AG's office that says, in regards to the immigration changes they're making in the Constitution, and this is where I would like your opinion, Professor and Michelle, that based on this agreement that is to be addressed in the House of Assembly, that I don't want to say Haitian because everybody thinks we're so xenophobic, but it's out to anybody who's trying to get into the country legally, based on some kind of excuse me, it's based on some kind of you're seeking what's the word called, Blaze? You're seeking asylum.
Yes,
right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yes, sir. That one of the questions will be, if you have no means to go back, and if you actually don't want to go back, these are the two decisions that will help you to stay in the Bahamas under this Immigration Act. And now, that's the first part. So we're here with an individual, barring if he didn't start any kind of a trouble back home, who's going to admit that, and who's going to prove that? But here is the question that I called to ask you. I know it's not constitutional legal because they're trying to change the Constitution, but they say these individuals, based on their status, will be what's the term they use? Looked after, supported, until housed and everything else, until they can find employment for them.
Yes.
Now, how ridiculous is that? That's the question.
Okay.
I mean, we have people like myself. I literally been evicted a couple of days ago. Where was the government for me, a Bahamian?
Good point.
Yes. Thank you very much.
The caller raised an interesting point there, because the thing is, if you listen to what is in this proposed asylum bill, whoever set it up, the entire thing is unconstitutional. It goes against the spirit and the letter of the Constitution. You talk about, and I noticed the word as I listened to what was being read, rights and right for so-called asylum seekers, right? The fellow say he's seeking asylum. They're going to put all these people. Who's going to be looking after these people? The taxpayers of this country. People now waiting for national insurance checks and can't get them. Huh? And some have died and didn't get checked. So where are we going with all these people who want to come into here to overrun this place? Because that's what you have is going to happen. If that bill passes, if it goes through, you can have a lot of trouble. Because it goes against everything that the founding fathers stood for. It was never the intent of the founding fathers for everyone born in the Commonwealth of Bahamas to be citizens. Let's get that point out there. Article 7.1 was taken completely out of context by those who had the opportunity to govern this country, which has caused a whole lot of immigration problems. And even if they came here legally, 1 year is the window of opportunity from age 18 to 19. Then the door shuts. They open it up where you 25, 26, 27, 30-something, 50-something, you could get it. That's wrong. Article 7.2 is not even looked at. That's been violated too. The national interest of this country, the security of this country. You're just adding people. And if that bill goes through, you'll be adding more people, a whole stream of people coming in here. And it will become burdensome on the average Bahamian, in fact, all Bahamian taxpayers who are here. What will this place look like? Some very strange, disturbing things are in that bill. And I'm going to say to the Bahamian people, we cannot let it go any further than where it is now. We got to stop it. Now, some may be stubborn and say they can pass it anyhow, but have to be crushed. Because we have to make sure it goes nowhere. That's what the Bahamian electorate has to be responsible for. And you have to tell the government of the Bahamas you are dead wrong for this nonsense you want to put on us, to put this burden on our backs. Because that's what they're proposing to bring to the House of Assembly.
This brings up a point that I want to say while I remember it,
Yes,
seeing
ma'am.
that we're here. Because we've seen for the last 2 election cycles at least, where you're talking about landslide victories.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I want to comment on that too. But go
Right? I mean, for all intents and purposes, you have very little, very little opposition in terms of the numbers.
Yes.
Which means that whichever governing party is sitting in that House of Assembly that has all those numbers, they could do whatever they want to do, pass whatever they want to pass. They don't need the opposition. The opposition can stand up and make as much noise as they want to make,
Yes.
but because they have the numbers, they can pass whatever they want to pass through that House of Assembly.
That is correct.
That is very dangerous.
Extremely dangerous.
And this is
Extremely
why it
dangerous.
is so important to have a good, healthy opposition
Yes,
to buffer that.
that's correct.
But we see now in this country where, people winning by landslide, both sides winning by these big landslides.
Right.
How dangerous is that for our democracy and the Constitution?
No, Ms. Malcolm, I agree with you. I want to comment on that. Because, see, the thing is, in one case, 35 for on the opposite side. In the next case, 32 on one side, 7 on the other side. The Bahamian people have to look at that very seriously because that's contributing to our problem. Contributing greatly to our problem. And of course, even before then, we've been having the same thing.
The last 3, yeah.
Okay, but I just want to concentrate on the last 2. 35 and 4, 32 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
None of them said that was a mistake. Oh, no, they had no problem with that. That's in the Constitution, too. But when it comes to a referendum, oh, y'all ain't qualified to make no decision. We got to make a decision for you. Utter nonsense and foolishness. The Bahamian people have to be very careful of the persons you send to the House of Assembly. Now, this is going to have to be open discussion among the Bahamian people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, you have a lot of things going to flare up. People can get upset. They can get angry. And I told them last night, I said, do not get upset with people if they say things that you may not agree with. I've been at this thing for a long time, so I will just smile when I hear people talk crap. But my job is to help them to do better. How do we go about getting that kind of balance that you just mentioned?
Mm-hmm.
How do we go about it? The Constitution tells us how to do it, you know. We have been doing some things, Ms. Malcolm, that are dead wrong. We have to correct it. It's just as simple as that. If we don't make course corrections, we can keep having the same foolishness happening over and over again. The Bahamian electorate has to look at these results and say, does this make sense? For our benefit, seeing the way the country has been governed over the last 50 years with these massive landslides, with this one, and then a massive landslide for that one.
Mm-hmm.
You get there with that one, I go into that one, give him a massive landslide, and you get no results.
Mm-hmm.
We have to look at that seriously, Bahamians. We can't take that lightly because that's our problem. That's a national problem. See, it says a national commitment to do. See, you got to go right back to your purpose for your nation. National commitment for some specific things that guarantee our freedom. We already see from hardcore evidence from the last 2 general elections. Ain't working.
Would you say that the quality of life in the Bahamas would be better if we were following the Constitution more closely?
If we were following the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, as outlined in that document, we would be far better off. But you have to have persons in the House of Assembly and in the Senate who are ready to do that. Now, that's the challenge of the Bahamian people.
You can't just look at that fella and say, because he dressed nice or she dressed nice, they can send him to House Assembly. That's foolishness. We have to know about the character of people. Now, this is going to get sticky when you start looking at character. But Bahamians, you have to strip this thing open and see what's underneath. Because our lives are being affected. Do you know how many people lived and died over the last 56 years hoping for a better day and didn't see it? That disturbs me every time I think about it. So I've been there right from the very beginning, and some others too. But all I'm saying is we who are here now have to look at it objectively and say, do we want this foolishness to keep going on? Because we have seen the evidence. We have seen how the two of them. See, no one could come up with any so-called plan to tell me they can do this, they can do that. I already know it. I've already seen the evidence. How much more evidence do you want? We need to make some changes because this massive landslide on this side, this massive land on that side, landslide on the other side ain't working. Now, it's the electorate who have to fix that. There's going to have to be widespread discussion. That's why, you know what I tell people, Ms. Malcolm? Get to know the people on your street. Now, I tell them I know from 50 years plus experience. Two of my best friends, husband and wife, I know that. They ain't tell me nothing. But I get to find two of them laugh at me. But say, ain't nobody tell me nothing. But I know how to conduct myself. And mind you, they still my good friends, you know. The friendship has never broken up. I know the wife very well. I know the husband very well. And there's many people like that across this country I know. And I never get into their personal affairs. Now, if they tell me something, well, then that's different. I got to keep it to myself. All I'm saying is we have to get on well with each other. We got to stop this nonsense like what happened in Nassau Village last night at a baby shower. And what happened in Baintown. Come on, Bahamians. We got to learn to get on with each other. We can't keep killing and juking up and knifing up and stabbing up and talking bad to people. I just tell people in my area, y'all got to do better than this. We can't have this. Now, when they see me, they kind of quiet down. But the point is, you got to help them to do better. We aren't going to get to change anything if we keep rowing and carrying on bad with each other. We don't respect one another's views, ideas, and opinions. We can't get on with that. But we can come to a consensus if we learn to listen to each other, hear out what the other person has to say. Because the Constitution will guide you to do it.
Okay.
That's why we have a Constitution.
We're out of time.
Oh, we done. Welcome.
I know you just was getting on.
I was just getting on. Yeah.
We gotta go.
Oh, right.
I'm playing the music, trying to tell me.
They're telling you got to stop.
Time to
Okay.
go.
All right.
Professor, thank you as always.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, ma'am.
Tomorrow is Hot Topic Tuesday. Be sure to tune in for a hot topic that is sure to get tongues wagging. Until then, I'm Michelle Malcolm saying thank you so much for being a part of the show this afternoon. It's 4 o'clock. Be gone. See you.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners